Hey everyone, Matthew Woodward here, and welcome to the second free video in the training series. Now, first of all, I want to thank everyone that left comments on the first video. It's been great talking to you all, and I've seen some familiar faces from my blog as well. I'm truly overwhelmed by the response so far, and I really wanted to thank you for that. Now, in the last video, I revealed the holy grail of link building that is behind the rankings of sites in the most competitive niches on the web. And I showed you how you can take advantage of that in your own business. If you missed it, go back and watch it now, because I made these videos to help you become a better SEO. And there are some key concepts that you need to understand first before you can take it to the next level with everything I'm about to share in this video. For the last few years, I've been helping people transform their SEO efforts with my multi-award winning blog. Millions of people have visited my blog for help with SEO, which has resulted in some great success stories, and there really has never been a greater time to be an entrepreneur than now. In the last video, I showed you how one site went from penalty to complete and utter search engine domination using truly private blog networks. And I've got some more great case studies like that to show you later in this video. But for now, I want to get straight into the meat of things and teach you the simple 3-step process behind building powerful private blog networks as cheaply as possible. So make sure you're sitting comfortably, because this is where it gets really interesting. I'm going to give you a top-down look at the simple 3-step process to building a private blog network, which really just boils down to 3 things: buying a domain, setting up hosting, and building a site. If you own a website right now, it should be a familiar process. And once you know the techniques you're about to learn, it'll be very quick and efficient for you to execute. Now, the heart and soul of any site in your private blog network is a domain. Remember, all we're doing when we're building our own private blog network is buying an expired domain with authority and then building our own site on it. The domain is very much the foundation to everything. So it's important that we only select the best domains for our network. To do that, there are a few different things you need to understand about the domain buying process and what to look for when buying a domain. This is where many people make their first mistake. So I'm going to show you how to do it the right way. For example, you don't want to buy a bunch of domains that have spammy backlink profiles or something with a bad history that's not really relevant to your niche. Now, there are lots of different tools and websites out there to help you find great domains for your network easily, but I'm going to keep things simple in this tutorial and show you some completely free services that you can take advantage of to find awesome domains for your network. And once I've shown you each of those free tools, I'm going to show you how to check if a domain is suitable to use in your network or not. The first free tool I want to show you is Moonsy. Now, Moonsy pulls a list of expired domains from GoDaddy auctions that are available to register now, and it gives you lots of other information like Majestic Trust Flow, Citation Flow, Alexa Rank, the number of backlinks, and so on. As you can see, they have lots of different domains in lots of different niches listed around the $10 mark. Now, although this free tool doesn't offer the most comprehensive list of domains, it does include lots of statistics, which makes this relatively unknown source of domains good enough to build your first network. The next free source of domains that you can use to find domains for your network is TB Solutions. This is a domain broker service that offers domains that have already been screened for spam. This is a completely free tool with just a sign-up required, complete with Majestic Domain Authority and Trust Flow metrics. However, because this is a broker, you are going to pay a little more for your domains. That's why investing in a tool to find domains is a good idea, because then you can find the best domains for the cheapest price, which is usually around $7 to $10. Now, the last tool that I want to show you is Domain Hunter Gatherer. Now, technically this is a paid tool, but as a smart SEO, you can take advantage of their free trial to find domains for your network now. It includes some really unique search methods, and you should be able to find a bunch of domains for your network without spending a penny. And when it comes to sourcing domains for your network, you can never have too many sources. The more sources you have, the better quality domains you can find. I have a total of 16 different domain sources, more or less, I use, including the 3 that I've just shown you. But those 3 are perfect if you're just getting started and are completely free to use. So, you want to try and find a domain that is relevant to your niche. For example, if you work in the car industry and you have a domain britishclassiccars.co.uk, that's a relevant domain. But something like ohio2012.com wouldn't be. So now you know where to find relevant expired domains. I want to show you how to check them properly, because you want to ensure you're not buying a spam domain with a bad history. You should always use your due diligence when buying domains. And although there are a lot of different things to look at, I'm just going to show you the most important things that you need to pay attention to right now. Those metrics are domain authority and page authority from Moz, along with trust flow and citation flow from Majestic. Then I'm going to show you how I calculate the trust ratio to quickly determine if a domain is spammed or not, with some real examples to help you out. Now, there are other things that you could look for, but I just want to give you a top-down view of the process without boring you by getting into too much detail here. And if you follow the 80-20 rule of life, then checking those key metrics will paint most of the picture for you. So, this is how we do it manually. Just open Majestic and the Moz Open Site Explorer in tabs, and then plug in any relevant domain you found from one of the 3 sources I introduced you to earlier. You want to make a note of the trust flow and citation flow numbers from Majestic, then move over to Open Site Explorer and do the same thing for domain authority and page authority. If any one of these 4 metrics is less than 15, then move on, because this domain is not strong enough to be in your network. Now don't worry, that's going to happen a lot. Just keep plugging away until you find a domain that is suitable. And if you find a relevant domain that has a trust flow, citation flow, page authority, and domain authority, all with a value of 15 or more, then we can do our first spam check by calculating the trust ratio. This is the ratio between Majestic's trust flow and citation flow figures. Majestic analysed the top 1 million domains on the internet and found the top 25% domains had an average citation flow to trust flow ratio of 1.09. They found that the median average site had a ratio of 1.81 and spammy domains had ratios of up to 10. So, with that said, you want to make sure that the domains you buy for your network have a trust ratio of between 0 and 1.81 to stay safe. To calculate that, just use a simple formula. Citation flow divided by trust flow equals trust ratio. To give you a better idea of what I mean, take a look at these 2 graphs from Majestic that show citation flow and trust flow for 2 domains. You'll notice these graphs are weighted heavily on one side. So, if we apply the trust ratio calculation, we can see these domains have a trust ratio of 9 and 8.85. That immediately tells me these domains are highly spammed and sit well outside of that acceptable range of 0 to 1.81. Now, if we compare that to 2 good domain examples, you can already see the graph is more balanced and these domains have a trust ratio of 0.86 and 0.66, which are well within the acceptable limits. That quick spot check will save you an awful lot of headache, because what can look to be an awesome domain often turns out to be a spammy dud. And the last thing you want to do is infect your network with spammy dud domains. I mean, that goes directly against the holy grail of link building that we talked about in the last video. The other quick spam check that we can do is with archive.org. Now, that allows you to step back in time to see what a website used to look like. So even if all the metrics are good and the trust ratio is awesome, you can still get a dud domain. So plug the domain into archive.org and make a few spot checks. What we're looking for here is consistency. If a domain used to be talking about taking your dog to work in 2002 and was still talking about that just before it expired, that's the kind of consistency that we're looking for. But if a domain was originally about finance, but then at some point in its recent history started talking about space flights and bicycle accidents, Well, that's one to avoid. If a site used to be about a company that made beer, but was then transformed into a site talking about cameras and mobile phone batteries, that's also one to avoid. When you do this extra manual check, it will soon become obvious which domains to avoid and which ones you want part of your network. Now, there are lots of premium tools out there that make finding domains a lot easier, but you don't need them if you're just getting started. Just use the free domain sources and the free tools I've already shown you in this video. The most important thing to remember when buying a domain for your network is to always use your due diligence. Check everything yourself manually before buying it, because afterwards, well, it's too late. You bought it, you own it. Now, there are other domain checks that you could do, but looking at the domain authority, the page authority, the trust flow, the citation flow, the trust ratio, and the archive will flag up the vast majority of problems. So, now you understand how to find domains and how to check if they're suitable to use in your network. The second step in the three-step process is to find hosting. Now, this is where there's a huge amount of misinformation online that leads to a lot of confusion and unnecessary Google penalties. Nearly every single private blog network guide on the web will tell you that you can save a lot of money and hassle by using an SEO host or reseller web hosting. And that is true, it does save money and it is easier to manage. But the problem is that because SEO hosting companies specifically target people in the SEO world looking to build private blog networks, a lot of their servers and IP addresses are jam-packed with private blog networks. Now, that leaves a detectable footprint for Google to find, and SEO hosts are regularly targeted by Google. But that's not even the main problem. Most of these networks also fail other footprint checks like the SEO record or the IP address ownership check, and even if they provide unique C-class, B-class, A-class IPs, in the next video, I'm going to give you a copy of my footprint checklist that I use when building networks to make sure I've not left any footprint behind that explains all of that. But this is a mistake I see over and over again. Let me be clear here, you must avoid SEO hosting and reseller services at all costs. If you do a Google search for how to build a private blog network, you'll find no shortage of people recommending SEO and reseller hosts because they are cheap and easy to manage and so on. But those hosts pay a generous affiliate commission. So do not fall into this trap. Under no shape or form should you be using that type of hosting in your network, period. If you do, make no mistake, you will regret it. It's only a matter of time. Instead, you should take advantage of multiple cheap shared hosting accounts which can be found for as little as $1 each. Every site in your network needs hosting, and you should only ever use one web host to host one website in your network. It can be tempting to put more than one site on a shared host to help cut costs, but that minor saving is going to cost you big in the long term. And plus, when you can get hosting for $1, why even bother trying to cut corners? I mean, what's the point? So, I'm going to give you two sources of cheap hosting. The first is a list of $1 web hosts that I've made available underneath this video for you to download. The second is a tip I first gave out on my blog, and although now it's republished everywhere, I'm going to share it again, and that is to simply head over to the webhostingtalk.org shared hosting offers forum. This is where many shared hosts post their very, very best deals, and you can find new hosts daily for next to nothing. Now, we aren't looking for anything special from our hosts or any fancy features. We just want the most basic, cheap web hosting that we can find. The cheaper it is, the better it is. Now, seeing as you're just building the first site in your network, you don't have to worry about hosting footprints just yet. But in the next video, I'm going to give you a complete list of potential footprints that exist in the hosting part of building your network. And for the most part, if you stick to the very basic rule of one site per shared host, you will not leave any traceable footprint behind, but you should always double check. Even as an experienced private blog network builder, footprints sometimes get through the cracks. So I always go through my footprint checklist for every site I build in my network to make sure that I've not left any footprint behind. And I'm going to make that available for you to download in the next video. I want to stress to you that leaving any kind of detectable footprint could be the death of your private blog network. You need to pay close attention to footprints, because footprints are the death of private blog networks, period. But for now, you know where to find really cheap authoritative domains, how to check them for spam, you know where to find cheap hosts that leave no footprint behind, and the last part of the process is building the actual site in your network. And honestly, I could talk about this all day, as this is where most people make a lot of mistakes. But usually it's only through their own laziness. So I'm going to boil it all down to the most important bits that have the biggest impact and move through this quickly, but you can always come back to this video and pause it where you need to. For now, you just need to understand the top-down process. First things first, you need to install WordPress. Your host should have a one-click installation available to make it easy, so do that and then log into the dashboard. As a general rule of thumb, you want to build your network like you drank a bottle of vodka or something like that. And now, I'm not advising you to actually go and do that, but you want to do things in a way that doesn't really make any sense or leave any pattern behind. So an easy way to do that is go through the settings menu and all of the sub-menus, including general, writing, reading, discussion, permalinks and media, and make changes to every option. Don't pay much attention to what you're doing because it's really not important. Just cycle through the options quickly and remember to be completely random with your choices. Next, we need to take care of how the site actually looks. Now, you always want to make sure that every site in your network uses a completely different theme. You should never use the same theme twice. Finding a theme is easy. Just go to the theme section, look at what's new or popular, and pick one at random. Again, don't spend much time on this. It's really not important. Just make sure that you haven't used that particular theme before. Now, once you've installed the theme, you're going to want to jump into the theme options and change things at random. Just go through and change settings that you see at completely random, just like everything else. Now, we need to install 3 different plugins. One that generates an XML sitemap, an SEO plugin, and a social sharing one. Now, just like with a theme, you want to be as random as possible, and you never want to use the same combination of plugins more than once. You could use the same SEO plugin more than once, as long as that was coupled with a different sitemap or different social sharing plugin each time. The quickest and easiest way to do that is just search for SEO in the Add Plugins window, and then pick one at random. Then search for social share and do the same thing. If the SEO plugin you've selected doesn't have an option to generate an XML sitemap, then you also need to do a search for sitemap as well and install one of those plugins at random. Now, we've taken care of the core options, theme, and basic plugins. And in just a few minutes, we need to address the content. But first, I want to bust the myth that you need to keep adding content to your PBN sites to stay fresh. I've tested this extensively myself, and by building networks I've added content to regularly, and networks that I've not added content to regularly, the results are the same. When it comes to content, all you need are a few blog post style pieces of content and some static pages like about me, contact me, privacy policy, and pages like that at random. At a bare minimum, you need 4 blog post style pieces of content that are around 400 to 800 words each. Now that's the bare minimum you could get away with, and if you can do more than that, you should. The more content you add, the better. Now you've got 2 choices to source that content. You can either write it yourself if you're on a budget, or you can outsource it. The most important thing to remember with the content is that it's unique and it's perfectly readable by a human. As long as those 2 things are true, you're good to go. Now, it can be tempting to cut corners here and auto-generate the content or steal it, but that will only come back to haunt you. So, if you're on a budget and need to write the content yourself, let me give you a quick tip that will help you. Now, just jump over to BuzzSumo, type in your niche, and rewrite the top articles so they're unique almost like you copied your friend's homework in school and you're trying to fool a teacher, except this time the teacher is Google. That will save you a bunch of time with researching what to write, how to structure it, and so on. And if you're quick on the keyboard, you can produce a relevant, high quality article every 10 minutes easily with this strategy. If you would prefer to outsource a content production, which is a route I take personally, then I do exactly the same as above. I find a list of popular articles in my niche, and then I send them to a writer, usually somewhere like 99centarticles.com, with the instruction to rewrite each article so they're unique. That is the quickest, cheapest, and most efficient way to source high quality content for your private blog networks. Now, I've experimented with auto-generating the content, and while it does work, they always get caught in the end and would never pass a human review. So, once you have the content, all you have to do is publish it on the site. But when you come to publishing it, there are a couple of tweaks that you need to make to help improve quality and to dilute any traceable footprints. So, you should always add 0 to 2 images at random, 0 to 2 relevant contextual external links at random, 0 to 1 internal links at random. So that might mean you have one article with, say, 2 images and 1 external link, but then you'll have another article with 1 image, 2 external links, and internal link in a video. But then you might have an article with nothing at all, no images, no links, or videos. That helps to keep everything looking like you've drank a bottle of vodka, and there's no traceable footprint when it comes to the content. And that's the only way to do that without actually drinking a bottle of vodka. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the key message when building a private blog network is to be random with everything. The more random everything is, the stronger your network will be. Now, if you've got any questions when it comes to the actual building part of your network, 9 times out of 10, the answer is just to be random. The only other content you need to add to the sites in your private blog network are static pages at random like contact me, about me, privacy policy, terms of service, and so on. Again, be random. Some sites in your network might have all of those pages, while others might have none. Now, you might be wondering about when we link to our own sites, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about linking strategy in the next video. In the meantime, I want to give you a quick look at what a finished sample private blog network site looks like, along with 2 awesome extra tips that help you fly under the radar. The sample site is in the blogging niche, and you might use a site like this in your network to rank for keywords like how to start a blog. You can see it looks like a genuine site complete with content, images, external links, internal links, videos, and so on. That is pretty much what everyone does when they build a site in their private blog network. But I've got a number of extra strategies that I like to apply that take no time at all, but really help to bolster the authenticity of a site. The first one is quite simply to create a custom logo. You can use a free desktop software called Jetta, which includes a bunch of easy to customize templates, which only take a few minutes to create and upload. The second tip I want to give you is to add fake comments to your posts. Just submit a bunch of comments with different names and emails and respond to them. It takes no time at all, but as you can see, it really adds to the authenticity of the site. There are lots of little things that you can do like this to add authenticity, and I could go on all day about all of the different authenticity modifiers that I use, but I think you get the general idea. Now, I know I said I was going to give you 2 extra tips here, but I want to give you a third because it's important. This tip will help you fly under the radar and avoid detection while keeping your entire network hidden from your competitors without leaving any traceable footprint. This is quite possibly the most important tip in the entire video. So, first you need to understand, how is it possible for your competitors to find your network? And well, it's simple, just by using popular backlink checking services like Ahrefs or Majestic. All they have to do is plug in your domain into either of those services, and a list of sites that link to yours will appear, including your entire private blog network. That is, unless you know what I'm about to teach you. And this is going to fix your problem in less than 60 seconds. because it's possible to build your private blog network that stays hidden from the likes of Ahrefs, Majestic and more, making it impossible for your competitors to reverse engineer your network. Now, all you need to do is copy and paste the code I've provided for you underneath this video into your htaccess file. And if you don't know what that is, well, don't worry, it's easy. Just install a WordPress plugin called WP htaccess editor and navigate to the plugin settings. Now, if no htaccess file exists, create one. If it does exist, then just copy and paste the complete contents of the text file you can find underneath this video, replacing anything that already exists, and hit save. What you've just done is block every single pesky backlink checking service on the planet by name and IP address, so no new information about that site will show up in their databases anymore, including where those sites link to. That makes it impossible for your competitors to spy on you and figure out how you are dominating the search engines. And this is something that you should apply to every site in your private blog network. So now you've got a general overview of how to build the first site in your private blog network. Step 1 was to find a domain and check it for spam. Step 2 was to find a cheap shared host. And step 3 was to set up a quick site with relevant content while being as random as possible. I also let you in on a few of my extra secrets to help you fly under the radar and hide from your competitors. And although this is just a general overview and I've got plenty more tricks like that up my sleeve, you now know everything you need to know to avoid the most common mistakes and build the first site in your network. Now, I want to stress to you the most important thing when it comes to building private blog networks is to be random and not take shortcuts. Shortcuts create footprints, and footprints are the death of private blog networks. Now, I know it can be tempting to save a few bucks by using that SEO host or automatically generating that content, but trust me, I've learned the hard way so you don't have to. When I built my first private blog network, I took every shortcut I could. If it saved 10 minutes or a couple of bucks, I did it. And at that time, I really didn't care, because even though I'd taken shortcuts to build the network, the site I'd put an awful lot of blood, sweat and tears into was ranking, and the network was flying. I mean, like, traffic was flowing, money was flowing. In fact, I kind of forgotten about how many shortcuts I'd actually taken. And honestly, I didn't really care. I was kind of almost arrogant or obnoxious about it. That was until our mutual friend Google came along and wiped the site out in one cruel sweep. I was devastated, but I was able to recover the site and grow it past previous revenue records after rebuilding the network the right way, like I should have done the first time. So I want that to serve as a warning to you so it doesn't happen to you. It cost me dearly once and it will never happen again. Let me remind you that you are in control of your private blog network top to bottom. If you get caught or your competitors snitch on you, it's your fault for making a mistake. Nobody else's. You are in control of the appearance. You are in control of the content. You're in control of the hosting. You're in control of where it links to. You're in control of every single variable. So if it gets penalized, that's on you. Now, that might sound a little bit harsh, but I'm in the business of building long-term business assets that drive traffic and rankings for the foreseeable future. And I'm not interested in the quick hit successes that get penalized in the next update because I cut corners. Once you understand the process of building private blog networks the right way, it really is easy for anyone to do. And on average, it takes me about 30 minutes to build out a site in my private blog network without cutting corners. And each one I produce becomes another pillar of my business. So, in the next video, I'm going to give you a complete checklist to make sure that you've not left any detectable footprints behind. You need to pay close attention to this because your network is only as strong as its weakest link. And weak links are caused by footprints. So I'm going to give you a copy of my personal footprint checklist to avoid all of these problems in the next video. I want to show you what's possible in the video games niche after a site was torn apart by a previous Penguin penalty. They deployed a private blog network way back in November 2014, and that's seen traffic grow consistently from 8,000 visitors per month to 175,000 visitors per month to 177,000 visitors per month, all the way through to a staggering 230,000 visitors per month from Google alone, making for a total of 5 million organic visitors. Now, in this specific sub-niche of video games, the popular keywords change all of the time. So every time a new blockbuster game is released, the private blog network advantage allows us to give quick rankings to those new pages simply by adjusting our anchor text strategy across the private blog network. And you can see the effects of that in Google Search Console here. Don't be that guy that cuts corners and has to deal with all the problems and stresses of getting penalized. I've seen people going from making a healthy 5 figures a day to nothing overnight just because they took stupid shortcuts when building their networks. Just don't be that person. Now, I know this video has been quite long, but that's because it's been jam-packed with information to help you avoid making the same mistakes that I have. That is the reason I created my award-winning SEO blog a few years ago, and the reason I've created these 3 videos. But it would make me very happy if you could help me help other people avoid these critical SEO mistakes by clicking the like or share button below. And given that I told you about one of my biggest SEO mistakes, I want you to leave a comment and tell me about the biggest SEO mistake you have ever made.